As an analyst watching the Canadian immigration landscape every single day, I have to say that 2026 is turning out to be one of the most unpredictable years we've seen. If you're currently in Canada on a work permit and looking for an extension, you've likely noticed that the vibe from IRCC has shifted from everyone is welcome to a much more calculated, almost clinical approach. We're moving away from the broad pandemic era policies and into a period where extensions are being used as a surgical tool to manage the temporary resident cap, which the government is dead set on bringing down to 5% of the total population by 2027. This isn't just a policy change, it's a total rebalancing of the system. One of the biggest updates right now, and I can't stress this enough, is the focus on the TR to PR pathway for 2026. I've been digging through the latest ministerial updates from late March, and the government has officially committed to transitioning about 33,000 temporary workers to permanent residency over the next 2 years. What does this mean for your extension? Well, if you've already applied under this specific pathway, you are in a much stronger position. IRCC has extended the deadline to apply for an open work permit (OWP) for these applicants until December 31st, 2026. This is a huge relief because it allows you to maintain maintained status, what we used to call implied status, while the slow wheels of PR processing turn. It's basically a bridge to keep you working legally without having to jump through the usual LMIA hoops. Speaking of LMIAs, let's talk about the reality for employer-specific permits. The days of easy extensions for low-wage positions are largely over in urban centers like Toronto or Vancouver. However, if you're working in a rural area, there's actually a bit of a silver lining that just kicked in this April. IRCC and ESDC have introduced a temporary measure where rural employers can actually increase their cap of low-wage temporary foreign workers from 10% to 15% through March 2027. So, if you're a supervisor on a farm in rural Manitoba or a technician in a small town in northern Ontario, your extension might actually be easier to justify now than it was 6 months ago. It's a clear sign that Canada is prioritizing regional labor needs over general labor supply. Then there's the CUAET situation. Minister Lena Metleg-Diab just announced a significant extension for Ukrainians who arrived under the Emergency Travel Authorization. If you fall into this category and arrive before the March 2024 cutoff, you now have until March 31st, 2027 to apply for an extension that could grant you up to 3 more years. This is one of the few areas where the government is still being quite flexible, recognizing that the situation back home remains unstable. It's a stark contrast to the tightening we're seeing in other streams, like the post-graduation work permit, PGWP, where the criteria for who can get an extension is becoming much more tied to specific in-demand fields of study. I also want to mention something that often gets buried in the fine print, the French-speaking skilled worker stream. If you have even moderate French skills and are working in an essential occupation, IRCC is practically rolling out the red carpet for your extension. They've signaled that French-speaking candidates are a top priority for vertical growth, meaning they want you to stay, extend, and eventually become a PR. If you're looking for a hack to guarantee an extension in this tight 2026 market, brushing up on your French and taking the TEF or TCF exam is probably the best investment you can make right now. Now, a word of caution on the maintenance of your status. With the new 2026 rules, the restoration of status period, that 90-day window after your permit expires, is being watched much more closely. While they've launched some leniency measures for people impacted by natural disasters, like the recent flooding and wildfire protocols that allow for status restoration even past the 90 days, don't rely on that if you don't have to. The fees have also gone up as of April 1st. It's not a massive hike. Passports went up a few dollars, and citizenship fees adjusted slightly. But it's a reminder that the cost of staying in the system is rising alongside the complexity. For those in Quebec, the rules are even more specific. There's a new measure for workers who have received an invitation from Quebec for a demande de sélection permanente, DSP. You can now get an employer-specific permit for up to 12 months to bridge the gap. This is a very specific Quebec-only win, showing that the province is exerting more of its provincial power over who gets to stay. It matches the broader 2026 trend. Provinces are getting a much bigger say in assessing whether a candidate truly intends to reside there and if they are economically established. If I were sitting across from you right now, my advice would be this. Don't wait until 30 days before your permit expires. With the 2026-2028 levels plan focusing so heavily on in-Canada transitions, the queue is getting longer. Use the open work permit extension options if you're in a PR stream, and if you're on an employer-specific permit, make sure your boss is ready to prove that no Canadian can fill your spot, unless you're in one of those lucky rural zones. The system is definitely getting harder to navigate, but for those who are already here, paying taxes and contributing to in-demand sectors, there's still a clear, if narrow, path forward. Just keep an eye on those expiry dates and the new fee schedules that just dropped this week. It's a lot to track, but staying informed is the only way to avoid getting caught in the 5% cap reduction.